Welcome to the Chai Academy, and welcome to the Chai Center. I am Rabbi Sachs, and we're going to go through a journey today that I believe will be very enlightening, and hope you enjoy. Please feel free to comment below if you care to do so, and we will. We'll strive to answer or clarify. So the class today is on anxiety. So we all have anxiety, and many of us, most of us, are on anxiety. I forget how many are medicated. I think there's like 1 in 3 people are on medication for anxiety and depression, etc. But anxiety and depression are two very separate things. And we're going to try and analyze and try to look at the sources and see what does, in fact, Judaism say about anxiety. So to embark, let's go all the way back to Genesis. Genesis chapter 1. So what makes the most sense for somebody to when to start your day, right? When does day start? When does a day start? So many people will say, well, when you get up. Some people say when the sunrise, and I guess these all make sense. But if you think about it, in the United States of America, the new day starts at midnight. So half the night belongs to the previous day, and the second half belongs to the next day. Hello, Susan. Shalom. So does that make any sense? I don't think it makes sense. I think if anything, the day should be a 12 hours and 12 hours. A perfect day is 6 to 6 is daytime, and 6 to 6 is nighttime. But midnight definitely doesn't make sense. The problem with saying whenever we get up is that each individual person has their own time they wake up. The problem with saying with sunrise is that it's different every day. Literally, it changes. Whenever the sun changes, even a little bit, it's a different time. Sunrise is a different time. It's very rare you have 2-3 days in a row where it's exactly the same time. So what the world has accepted is midnight. Midnight is the time, right? Exactly midnight, 12 o'clock is when the day starts. And it makes sense on some level. But what theoretically does not make sense is Judaism's take on when the day starts. So if you go back to Genesis, the Torah tells us that on the first day, God created light, and God created darkness. So darkness is not just an absence of light. Darkness is a creation. And Vayihi Erev, Vayihi Voike Yom Echad. It was night, it was day, and that is a day. So Judaism, we know, it begins the night before. When the sun sets, the new day has arrived. Now that totally doesn't make sense, right? The new day begins when you come home from work. The new day begins when you're ready to go to bed. So if midnight doesn't make sense, you would say that this definitely doesn't make sense. Night precedes day. Day, you wake up in the morning fresh. For some of us, depends on how much REM you've gotten, and so you wake up. You wake up in the morning ready to take on the day. That makes sense. But to start your day, Judaism's version of beginning your day at night is when you come home from work, you're tired, right? Even a parent, right? It's difficult. You don't really want to be a parent. You just want to be an introvert. The whole day you were talking to people, and even if you're naturally an extrovert, there are times where you just want to be with yourself. I'm a little bit of an introvert. When I get home, I like my quiet space. So how does this work? Why would your day begin at night? It doesn't make sense. So there's two lessons. There's two lessons to be gleaned. Why would the Torah? Remember, this is God. God telling us that night precedes the day to make a day, to make a cycle. So there's two lessons. One is to teach us how family life is so important. When is the family home all together? Nighttime. Nighttime is not a time to shirk one's parental or one's familial responsibility. Nighttime is the time to give your kids, your spouse, a tremendous amount of TLC. Whether it's the homework, whether it's dinner, whether it's playing a game. So you may not feel like it, but the Torah says that the morning's definitely not the time. The morning, everybody gets up, you brush your teeth, and off to school. Nighttime is when you have that opportunity to really gel as a family. And on Friday night, you invite guests to make your family even more well-balanced for the Shabbat meal. So the Torah is teaching us a fundamental lesson. Yes, while work is important, and while earning money is a mitzvah, however, you have to give your creme de la creme of yourself at the beginning of the day, which is night, when the family is together. So that is one lesson. That is one lesson, and I think it's an important lesson, wouldn't you agree? The second lesson is more Kabbalistic, and this is the discussion in today's class. Night, which is dark, symbolizes tough times. Day, which is light, symbolizes better times. What comes first? So what comes first is the night. The Torah is trying to send us a message, and we'll prove it from another verse, but bear with me. The Torah is trying to send a very, very important message here, is that when a person has anxiety, rather than have anxiety over your anxiety, you should view anxiety as a tool for growth. Anxiety makes you act, not depression. Anxiety makes you want to get out of anxiety and improve your life. That's the ideal. That is the ideal. So, just like, anxiety is an alarm clock. Just like when you wake up in the morning, your alarm clock rings. Do you hate your alarm clock? I mean, yes, definitely hate my alarm clock. But what do? You get up. It makes you get up and take on the day. Some people snooze their alarm clock, but it doesn't go away. Just because you snoozed it and stopped it for a few minutes, it doesn't mean that it's not going to come back. Anxiety is very similar. And when you have anxiety, it has to be addressed just like you address the alarm clock. And you don't hate your alarm clock, don't hate your anxiety. To snooze your anxiety, push it away and say, okay, I'm going to deal with my anxiety next month. I'm going to deal with my anxiety after Aunt Bertha's surgery, is like snoozing an alarm clock. It's going to rear its ugly head, and it's only a matter of a short amount of time. And you don't hate your alarm clock, don't hate your anxiety. Anxiety is a message that things need to change, and one has to ask themselves, what can I change? God didn't give us anxiety because God is a cruel despot. God gave us anxiety in order to be able to become better people. Right? God gave us challenges. He gave us obstacles. He gave us issues. And our job is to work through them or over them, conquer them, and become a better person. I was telling somebody today, it somehow connects. I had a family here. They lost a loved one at a very young age, and they were crying uncontrollably. And what I told them was that I understand their pain. And I told them that I never really understood their pain until I lost my own parent. That experience, going through the death, the waiting period, the burial, the shiva, helped me become a better person in terms of understanding someone else's pain of loss. I thought I understood. I really did. I'm an empath. I thought I understood, but you know what? You can't. You can't. So until I lived through it, until I had that experience, now I can understand somebody and be a true empath that I thought I was. The true empath I thought I was. Doesn't mean you can't have empathy if you don't have experience in loss, but you don't fully get it. You just don't. I'm sure I'm speaking to many of you. I'm speaking to the quiet there. So the obstacle that has been placed in your past, I would never tell somebody, by the way, I would never tell somebody, God would only give you what you can handle. That's not for me to say. God wants to say it to you, that's great. I can't say that to you. I think that's audacious. I think that's a chutzpah. I think it's out of place. That's narcissistic in a way. That I'm telling you, God wouldn't give you what you can't handle. I would never say that to you. But God does give you anxiety in order to grow as a person. God does give you challenges in order, and they shouldn't be viewed as OMG, oh my Google. They shouldn't be viewed as, oh my goodness, what on earth am I going to do? But rather it's, what can I do about it? Not what am I going to do about it? What can I do about it? What can this experience, what can this anticipation teach me? And we see this as clear as day in the Torah, as clear as day. Jacob, the son of Isaac and Rebekah, he had a twin brother, Esau. Jacob was good, Esau was a skunk. Jacob was honest, Esau was rotten, corrupt. Jacob was a student of Torah, and Esau was a student of hunting. Jacob wouldn't kill anybody in his life, and Esau would kill and did kill. Two very different people. They got into a huge fight. Maybe this is why Jewish families fight, is because our very ancestors fought. Jacob and Esau got into a huge fight. And they separated for 20-something years. Esau still bore a grudge against Jacob, and he came towards him to fight him, to kill him. So what did Jacob do? This is making a short version of it. Jacob took his family and moved them the other side of the river for protection, and that way there was a river in between so that they could flee easier. Jacob was left on the side of the river alone. And he was about to go to the other side, but all of a sudden, a person, which was, the Torah tells us, was an angel, fought with him. And the term the Torah uses was wrestled. They were literally wrestling on the side of the riverbank. It was probably where mud wrestling was invented. Literally wrestling with one another. And the angel says, let me go. And anyway, and they were fighting, and Jacob did not let him go. So the angel resorted to a low blow, and he hurt his sciatica. He pulled his sciatic nerve. That caused Jacob tremendous pain, where Jacob limped because of this. But Jacob still would not let him go. So the angel says, "What do you want from me?" So he said to me, "Bless me. Bless me." I ask you, is that a normal response? It seems completely insane. You're fighting with somebody, right? You're fighting, whether it's to death or whether it's to hospitalization, right? And the guy finally says, "Okay, it's over, and the pummeling is going to end." You either beat him, with a little bit of kung fu. You either punch him in the nose, run as fast as you can. The last thing you would tell your adversary is to bless you. The last thing, the very last thing. And in fact, it wouldn't be the last thing because you wouldn't do it. It doesn't make sense. There's no logic in it whatsoever. But then something more happened. There was more weirdness, the Torah tells us. Right? Instead of the angel saying, "You're my enemy, go to hell," the angel said, "Okay, I'll bless you. Ma shimcha, what's your name?" So he said, "Jacob." He goes, "Your name shall no longer be called Jacob. Your name shall be called Israel." Israel. And that's Eretz Yisrael, the land of Israel. Torah Yisrael, the Torah of Israel. Am Yisrael, the people of Israel. Not Jacob. And we're taught that Israel is a much loftier, it's a much more of a spiritual name. It denotes wrestling with God and winning. Wrestling with one's inner demons and winning. Jacob is, you're still in the midst of the fight. Israel means you've won the fight. What happened here? What happened here? Excuse me. He asked for a blessing. He gave him a blessing. Why ask for a blessing? Essentially, what the sages were saying here, what the sages are explaining what happened here is Jacob, it was a huge challenge for Jacob. The angel fighting with Esau, fighting with Esau's angel, his sar, his minister, right? It was a huge challenge, and it was giving Jacob, was as the Torah tells us, he was completely anxious. He was very nervous. He had a pachad, he had a dread. He didn't know what to do. But then as he's fighting, he comes to an epiphany, and he says, "I have to learn a lesson from this. I have to learn a lesson from this albatross that I've been faced with for so long." And he told the angel, "Bless me. Bless me that from this encounter of having this negative experience, I shall be blessed." To which the angel said, "Yes, I will bless you. And the blessing is that you should have more confidence that you can battle. You and your kids, your dynasty, the human being, the human race. You don't have to give up. You blessed Sarisa Imelakim. You fought and you were tenacious and you won Vatuchal and you were able to overcome." That is the blessing of anxiety. That it's hard and it's intertwined with your very life, and you think about it, you contemplate it, and you wrestle with it, and you are in sometimes you're just disarray. You can't even think straight. But the bottom line is, you have to come out a better person. And that's what Jacob finally understood. And the angel said, "Yes, you're right. It is a blessing. But not just for you, Jacob. It's going to be a blessing for your descendants forever and ever." This challenge, said the angel, was a blessing. This struggle was a blessing. This experience was a blessing. God is not only going to give us good times. It doesn't make any sense. We'll never grow. If we only had good times, we'll never grow. Right? and would just be spoiled brats with no learning curve, right? We're gonna, we're just, rich kids that really are who are narcissists. In order not to become a narcissist, you have to be challenged. In order to become not self-absorbed, you have to be challenged, right? There's a reason for this. So you're going to have good times, you're going to have bad times, you're going to have great times, you're going to have worse times, right? You're going to have anxiety and you're going to have joy. But all this is part of life that God decided a human should have. It's not necessarily pleasant, I'll give you that. It's not. It's not. Right? I'm living through something that's trauma for me. But I know that I will get over it. I do know. And I've learned lessons from it. There's a fascinating... It's unbelievable. This is hundreds of years ago. There was a fellow by the name of Rabbi Levi Yitzchak of Berdichev. He was the chief rabbi of Berdichev. He's buried in Berdichev. I went to visit his grave a couple of years ago. It's in Ukraine, which probably can't visit there now. But Levi Yitzchak of Berdichev said, why is it that people drink coffee in the morning? Why is it? Now, we think what rabbi would care. You drink coffee, you don't drink coffee, you drink tea, you drink water, you drink, you drink mud, you drink Red Bull. I mean, what is he asking? Why do they drink coffee? Why do people get up in the morning and immediately, go to Starbucks or a Keurig, or I drink Cometeer? Why? Why? So he said as follows. Coffee in Yiddish is not coffee. It's kava. If you go to a Hasidic speaking, Yiddish speaking world, you'll ask them, where can I buy kava? And they'll tell you the grocery store. Because kava is the Yiddish word. And the Berdichev explains as follows. Coffee, I'm not talking about a latte. Coffee, I'm not talking about a caramel macchiato. Coffee is what? What is coffee? Coffee is hot water, cold milk, sugar, and bitter beans, ground beans. That's what coffee is. Coffee is an admixture. Some people have it with milk, without milk, whatever. But the bottom line is, it's either 2 ingredients, 3 ingredients, or 4 ingredients. You have sweet, you have bitter, you have hot, you have cold, right? Hot water, and then you temper it with cold milk. Bitter beans, you temper it with a little bit of sweet and low or sugar. And the Baal Shem Tov says that's exactly the point. One's day is going to not only be sweetness. One's day is going to have bitterness. It's going to have hotness. It's going to have coldness. It's going to be scorching. It's going to be feel like hell of fire. You're so passionately angry about something. Other things, it's going to be hell of cold. Right? You're going to be apathetic and you're just going to sulk and draw within. He says, but you know what kava means? Kava is not only a Yiddish word that means coffee. Kava is a Hebrew word that means hope. So he said every day we get up and we internalize a little kava. That's what we do. We internalize a little hope. And we understand that life is not going to be rosy. Is it rosy for some? I'm not sure. Right? It seems to me like, Bill Gates had a pretty rosy life, and so did Mark Zuckerberg. That's what it seems to me. But who knows? I have no idea. Mark Zuckerberg seems to be a little spoiled. He's but who knows? Who knows? I can definitely tell you, the people I know personally, everybody has their challenges and obstacles. Everybody has their, it may seem like it, and by the way, Facebook is just a false life. It may seem like it, but it's not. It's difficult. It's difficult, but it's designed to be difficult. So we meet. This is the attitude we must have. We meet a bad person, or a bitter person, or a sweet person, right? What's the lesson? Somebody's nice to you. The lesson is pay it forward. Someone gives you anxiety. What's the lesson? Don't pay it forward. Don't learn from that person what not to do. It's equally as important as learning what one should do, what you should learn from somebody. It's equally as important. Equally. So you meet a bitter person, you meet a cold person, you meet a cold as ice, just like this. You meet a very passionate person who's very huggy and love, and it's so warm, and everybody needs a hug, right? That's scientifically proven. So you learn from that. You're going to get all types of things every single day. And while it's true you have to fight through it, the good, the bad, and the ugly, the bottom line is you should become out more blessed because of it. Now, every person you meet, says the Baal Shem Tov, is divine providence. Two people meet, he says is there's a reason for it. There's a reason for it, as we discussed. Learn from it, not learn from it. The Lubavitcher Rebbe passed away 1994. The Lubavitcher Rebbe said that when two people meet, ideally, some way, it should benefit a third. Two people meet, it should benefit a third person. So I meet you, whether it's Facebook or whether it's at the Chai Center, or on the street, in the supermarket. We got to figure out how can it benefit a third person. That was the Rebbe's call to action. That was his actually ingenuity. And an encounter may not be a good one. An encounter may be a terrible one, but that too should benefit a third person. That too. So, embrace the anxiety. Try to get rid of it. And most important thing you can do, the most important thing you can do, is learn from it and make the world a better place. Everything's divine providence. So there's a lesson in everything that we hear, we see, and we experience, and anxiety is no different. God bless. Feel free to comment here. If you have a comment, feel free to share if you enjoyed. Feel free to share if you didn't enjoy, because maybe that's just subjective. And you can always see many more of our classes at thechaiCenter.com/academy, or the Chai Academy on different venues that we have. There's YouTube, there's Anchor, there's Spotify, etc., etc. Thank you, Susan. Yeah, it's a real meaningful message. It's not mine. It's a real meaningful message that I try to live with. It's not easy. I'm telling you now, it's not easy. But it's an important one. God bless. Let's benefit a third person. Even by this little encounter we had, let's try and benefit a third person. Be well.